My name is Randall Klein. I'm an early reading specialist from Bozeman, Montana, USA. This video is about implementing an effective early reading program for children ages 3 to 8 years. An effective early reading program should be designed to give students many things, including independence, choice of activities and the freedom to choose, fun repetition, movement and hands-on learning, an orderly sequence of games and activities, and individualized instruction. I want to show you how you can organize your learning environment to give students the benefits of an effective early reading program. All effective reading instruction builds from a foundation of phonemic awareness, which is the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate sounds in spoken words. I will begin today with a very underappreciated and often overlooked phonemic awareness skill: beginning sound isolation. It is very important for children to have the ability to isolate the beginning sound of spoken words. In fact, beginning sound isolation is the key that opens the door to understanding and learning the sounds of the alphabet. And this is true because a child who can isolate the beginning sound of a word, bear, can identify the sound of a printed letter next to the picture of bear. He can figure out the sound of any letter that is attached to an image. When he does this, he is applying the Alphabetic Principle, one of the non-negotiable beginning reading skills that all children must master. And when he can do this, he shows that he has a conscious understanding of the relationship between sound and symbol, between speech and print. Effective early reading instruction always moves from speech to print. In previous videos, I demonstrate how we teach children beginning sound isolation through a modeling process. But once a child can isolate beginning sounds, he needs to have independent activities and games, so his ability to isolate sounds becomes stronger and increasingly more automatic, which will help him to understand and learn the alphabet much more easily. He is going to be using his beginning sound isolation skill a lot as he teaches himself the sounds that letters make. This is an example of a self-checking practice sheet that each child has so that he can keep track of his practice and his progress. This Activities with Sounds practice sheet has illustrations of each phonemic awareness activity that he will find in the classroom, including rhyming, beginning sound isolation, blending, and phoneme segmentation. When a student is able to rhyme, I will show him a rhyming activity. When he is able to do the activity independently, I will show him the rhyming pairs activity on the self-checking chart. He is now free to choose that activity during lesson time. He can put a check in one of the boxes each time he practices that rhyming activity. Over a period of days or weeks, depending on the age of the child, I will show him other phonemic awareness games on the lesson shelf that he can learn and be free to choose. These self-checking practice sheets offer the student those elements of effective classroom instruction I spoke of earlier: independence, choice of activities and a freedom to choose, fun repetition, movement and hands-on learning, order, and individualized instruction. These sheets can be downloaded from the Handouts tab on my website, earlyreadingmastery.com. Beginning sound isolation allows the child to understand the alphabet in a very important way and to apply the alphabetic principle. It is the key that unlocks the door to the alphabet for the child, because now the child can name the sound of each letter on these alphabet cards. These are the 5 letters in alphabet cluster number 1. He hasn't learned these letter sounds yet, He can't read them, but he has learned how to identify the sounds on those cards. He has unlocked the door to the alphabet, where he will find a variety of fun, hands-on games and activities that allow him to practice his first cluster of letters. With this sound and letter sorting game, the student chooses a picture card which illustrates a spoken word. He slices off the beginning sound of that word and then matches it to a printed letter. He is matching sounds and symbols. He is not being asked to read letters, only to recognize letters. I will take turns until I see that the child can work independently. This may not happen right away, especially with a 4 or 5-year-old, but it will happen very quickly with a struggling beginning reader who already has some alphabet knowledge, but needs more mastery or understanding. The sound and letter sorting game becomes more challenging when the alphabet cards are turned over. This is another game that asks the child to match sounds to symbols. The picture of girl is asking the child to find the letter that says G. Where is the S? Asks the seal. Where is the H? Asks the picture of hat. Each picture in this game is asking the child a question. The seal is asking, is this the letter S? The goose is asking, is this the letter G? After a child is independent with a game, he can find the image on his self-checking practice sheet and put a check in a box each time he practices it. There is no particular sequence a child has to follow. If a child can do one game, he can usually do any of them. The younger the child, however, the more likely that I will choose what might be the easiest game for him to do first. And of course, the student can ask for a lesson on any of the games that pique his interest. Some students do not use lesson time productively, and therefore are not getting the repetition they need for learning mastery. I can take a highlighter and mark one or several of the practice boxes in order to assign work I feel the child needs. Some children are very motivated to do each lesson again and again, so they can check all of the boxes. But that's not necessary. If a student can quickly recognize each of the 5 letters in this cluster when I say a sound, then I would like him to move on to the next cluster of letters. I don't need him to read the letters at this point, but only to recognize them when prompted with a sound. Alphabet mastery will build as the child moves through the 5 alphabet clusters. All the letter cluster number 1 activities are found in one place, in the classroom, and they are available to choose during any practice period. This photo shows part of my traveling set of early reading mastery materials. During a practice session, students choose their own activities. And because students naturally progress and learn differently, lessons from any or all of the activity clusters might be on display as I wander and observe the students as they practice. My job is to supervise the practice sessions and give help or encouragement where needed. The self-checking practice sheets play a key role in guiding the students' work and in helping me keep track of the progress of each student. As a student moves on to a new alphabet cluster, he already knows each of the activities he'll find there, and the pace of his learning the alphabet begins to accelerate. Now he does the letter and picture sorting work with cluster number 2 letters, and he does it quickly and efficiently. This is a game he already knows. It's just a different cluster of alphabet letters. You can see how a first grade student who is struggling with reading would move very quickly through this sequence of alphabet clusters, whereas the 4 or 5-year-old child will move much more slowly at a pace that matches his abilities and perhaps his temperament. This is individualized instruction. Remember, the games for each activity cluster are grouped together on a shelf or tray for easy access during the practice sessions. Now let's talk about words. Phoneme segmentation is the key that opens the door to words. The child's ability to break apart or segment a spoken word will allow him to learn how to decode words. In previous videos, I demonstrate how I teach children phoneme segmentation by modeling phoneme segmentation with variations of a blending game. Once a child can segment words into sounds, he needs to have independent activities and games, so his ability to segment words becomes stronger and increasingly more automatic. This will help him understand and learn the decoding process much more easily. When I first play this blending bingo game, I call out 3 sounds, and the children blend those sounds to identify an image that may be on their bingo card. But once students begin to segment themselves, they can play the game independently with each other. In this blending game, I use a deck of cards to model phoneme segmentation. It's a guessing game. What picture am I hiding? K, p. Right, cup. Once the students begin to segment themselves, they can play the game independently with each other. Phoneme segmentation allows the child to understand decoding in a very important way and to apply the alphabetic principle to words. It is the key that unlocks the door to words. The child who can segment a simple 3-letter word like sun into individual phonemes, s, n, can map those sounds onto the 3 letters of the printed word. He can apply the alphabetic principle at the word level and walk through the door that says words. Let's see what he will find there. I like to begin with word building, although as you'll see, the child can actually do any of the work in the 3-letter word cluster once he can segment. Word building activities allow the child to apply the alphabetic principle at the word level in preparation for decoding. As I say the sounds of pig, I'll move the letter tiles into position to build the word. P, I, G. Notice that the child who does this word building activity is not actually reading letters. He is recognizing letters, prompted by the sounds that the image is telling him to find. This is not decoding words, it is encoding words. Encoding words is the most powerful way to prepare a child for decoding words. Here, the child segments the word fan into 3 sounds, f, a, n, then uses those sounds to find the correct answer. This is also not yet true decoding, but a matching of sounds to letters. With this activity, I teach the students to start with a picture, segment the word, and find the label that matches those sounds. When these cards are turned over, the child can only see the word, not the picture. He decodes the word and then turns the card over to see if he is right. This is another activity the child will find in the 3-letter word activities cluster. Again, the child has a self-checking practice sheet to guide his work, to motivate him, and to ensure he achieves sufficient mastery at each step of his journey. He becomes very familiar with each game and has many choices during lesson periods. He'll find these same games when he graduates to 4-letter words. The learning environment is organized so that all of the 3-letter word work is in one place and easily accessible by the child. The student will find the same games and perhaps some new ones as he moves on to work with 4-letter words. And 5- and 6-letter words, silent E words, and phonogram words. The games for each word activity cluster are grouped together on a shelf or tray for easy access during the practice sessions. Reading problems primarily occur at the word level, so we want to be sure that our students are very good at decoding words before we lead them into reading connected text, like phrases and sentences, decodable books, and leveled readers. The student will always know which cluster he is working on and how much progress he is making. This is one of the wonderful teachers I worked with in South Africa. I'm talking to her about the use of the self-checking practice sheets. I believe that the use of self-checking practice sheets, or whatever similar system you create for your program, is a key to giving students those benefits of an effective early reading mastery program: independence, choice, repetition, movement, and most of all, individualized instruction. Please contact me if you would like to schedule a free 1-hour online presentation or question and answer session. You'll find contact information at the end of this video. Please join me in giving the children of our communities learning environments that provide independence, hands-on learning, repetition, individualized instruction, and an easy-to-follow path that leads to early reading mastery. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to visit you in your school or classroom. When I do visit schools, I always request the opportunity to work with beginning and struggling readers so that I can model the methods and materials I have only barely begun to outline for you today. From Bozeman, Montana, USA, goodbye, thank you, and see you next time as we continue to explore the joys of giving young children early reading mastery.